I feel like a lot of people, they hesitate. They don't like to admit, like what you just said, stolen land.
Yes,
A lot of people hide away from that term of like, it wasn't stolen, it was this. And I think that's the importance of education.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people think that way because they do not want to get educated about the deep history of Australia. They just take whatever is presented to them.
Absolutely.
And the understanding is that the land was not stolen. There were no people here. That's what a lot of people think. So I love the fact that, you have an open mind to be taught and to learn things and to search for, an understanding about the Indigenous people of Australia. Now, you completed it, right? Which I'm assuming you took a lot of things learning that, during your major, just learning about Indigenous culture, history, everything. Why do you think it's important for someone to take those studies, for an individual and for society? Why do you think that's important?
I would say that it's important to undertake Indigenous studies as a way of beginning I can only speak from the perspective of a non-Indigenous person.
Right.
So I guess in reference to how other non-Indigenous people would, why I think it's important for them to undertake, some form of, I feel a bit awkward saying Indigenous studies, but I guess learning about our nation's history and especially incorporating, Aboriginal or specifically Noongar culture into everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important because historically our, past generations didn't necessarily have that education at all on a university level or, on a school level. I certainly wasn't taught adequate Aboriginal, culture and history at school at all. In fact, I think we spoke about it for one day.
Yeah.
And the teacher didn't really care.
Mm-hmm.
It was also very essentialist and didn't respect that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures are very diverse across Australia.
Yes.
I mean, it's like comparing Ireland and Russia.
Right.
On a geographical space, you would never assume that they've got the same culture, but for some reason the world and Australia assumes that Indigenous cultures are very uniform. But going back to the question, I think that it's important as a way of, especially in this day and age, as a way of healing the nation while also coming together to address the wrongdoings of the past and that, still occur.
Yeah.
And I've seen a difference in this because with our generation and upcoming generations having this opportunity and this education, they're going about their lives in a more respectful and understanding way of, the history and culture of Australia.
Yeah.
And they're learning the truths that perhaps our, my parents and my grandparents were told and perhaps ignored, or, were given some weird version of it.
So just to touch back on your feminism, just how you're a very outspoken female who stands up for, female rights and everything like that. Have you had any not so great experiences with the opposite sex that could have pushed you to being more, outspoken about female rights?
Yes, definitely, as all women have. I think from a young age, I felt
pushed into, the corner of femininity. So, being into, to be ladylike, to not speak up as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
It never stopped me, but I noticed early on a disparity there. I remember also being perceived as, I love my dad, but my dad said to me when I was moving to a new school, and he said, to make friends, you're going to have to be less intimidating. And it's like, but men are allowed to be
like that,
intimidating. Why am I not allowed to, speak my truth?
Yeah.
Why do I have to sit back? I don't want to sit back. And I don't think that anyone, regardless of gender or sex, should sit back. Or, if they don't want to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had some shocking experiences with the opposite sex. I've been groped, threatened with rape. Yeah, like I've had shocking comments, but like the weird thing is I feel so normal speaking about it because it is what it is.
Yeah.
And other women have had the same experiences, and it sounds shocking to hear.
It sucks though that we have to say it is what it is, because it's a way of just normalizing it. Like,
absolutely.
Society tells us that that's just meant to happen.
Exactly.
Which is unfair.
It's so unfair.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, you know, and it also happens, I think, I want women to also be careful. Sexism doesn't exist as some angry man shouting like, you know, sexist things. You like, you're a bitch or a slut, you can't do this. It's so much more complicated. It can, you know, it can happen to you by the people who you love dearly, like boyfriends or people that you're seeing.
People that you thought you could trust.
Exactly, friends, family members. And when it comes out, it's quite jarring, and it will cause you to kind of double take, oh, if the person I love is saying this to me or they're treating me this way, then I've done something wrong.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not necessarily the case.
It can be in, you know, some instances, I guess, but if a man in your life is disregarding you or discriminating you based on the fact that you're a woman, that's not okay. And that has happened to me. So like, sexism is very, like I said, it's complicated. It's the same with racism, you know. Racism is not someone hurling racial profanities at you.
There's silent racism as well,
It's overt, it's covert, it's institutional, it's systemic, and that's the exact same with sexism. But yeah, like, I just keep going, I guess. And I also have very high standards about who I surround myself with. If I experience sexism from someone that I care about, I absolutely have a conversation with them, and I don't associate with sexist people. I don't have the time for it, really.
I get it. Now, jumping off of, you know, what you just said about how sexism is not always someone yelling some sexist stuff or offensive stuff or degrading stuff, what advice do you have for young women? Because I think you learned that through experience, that you know what, sexist could be my boy, like, you know, it could be my boyfriend treating me differently because I'm a woman. And I think a lot of young women do associate sexism with someone like being aggressive and being whatever, that they may overlook their boyfriend's behaviors or their husband's behaviors. What advice do you have for women to be able to notice those signs?
I would say that unfortunately a lot of it comes down to experience, and kind of, I would tell them to listen to their intuition. You know when something doesn't sit right. Your gut always knows, and you've got to tune in to those little signs and pay attention to them. If the situation doesn't feel right, get out of there. Obviously humans are complicated, and you know, like I've had my journey with coming to terms with racism. A lot of men will also have their journey with coming to terms with sexism. But you've got to, as a woman, listen for those and be wary of anything that makes you feel inadequate on the basis of your gender. Even the little things like, a lot of men, I've noticed, they joke about the whole sandwich thing, like, make me a sandwich, as if it's a hilarious joke. And, you know, they may not be seriously sexist, but by making those little
small
comments they're furthering that narrative, and they're saying that it's okay to make those jokes at your expense. When it's really not.
That's really true. Now, let's just go back to, you know, you studying Indigenous Studies. And you were talking about, you know, how when you were younger, you were very colonized. Your mind was colonized. And you had to decolonize yourself the more you got older, just teaching yourself new things. Now, I think other people may not really understand what decolonizing your mind is, or just decolonization. So if you don't mind just kind of going into detail a little bit more about what it is, like your understanding of it.
So I guess if I'm going to give my understanding of it, decolonization can occur on many different levels, but on the way that I was talking about it, decolonizing your mind is about being more critical about the face value of civilization, history, culture, And, you know, you see this in the media, looking at what images am I constantly seeing of certain people?
Right.
What narratives am I constantly being conveyed about different groups of people? And is this in a positive or is it in a negative light? So decolonizing your mind is stripping back and peeling back those layers to see things in a more complex way. And so for many people, you know, that can be about, for example, my notion of, and this is something that I've really picked up with people around me, is my own understanding of colonization was very visual, and that's a tool of racism.
Yeah.
You know, about making things look a certain way. My idea of colonization and my idea of civilization was big buildings, you know, land being farmed, hierarchies, you know, there's a monarch, you know. For some reason I thought all of that was completely fine. Nowadays it's obviously quite different. But it was very much about the kind of aesthetic of success, in a Western sense.
Yes.
And to me, like back then, that was what civilization looked like. And if, you know, I saw another culture that didn't fit into that, it was sort of like, okay, they don't fit that perfect, you know, made up image that I've got, so they are lesser than. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And obviously this is also about what I viewed as the norm. For me, the norm was, you know, whatever upbringing I had, so, you know, churches and very Western, you know, stereotypically Western family structures, ideas of the land. That was a big one for me as well. That, you know, the notions of the earth. For me, it was almost like rewiring my brain to see things in a more critical light, and also privileging and putting forward and listening to non-white perspectives on things.
Right, that's very important.
Because like I had never seen that or heard that before.
Yeah.
So in a way, like I don't blame people for their minds being colonized, but we also have the opportunity to decolonize our minds. And I honestly think that is going to be the biggest challenge that Australia faces.
Oh yeah.
But also the biggest opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think if we roll with that and really work on that, it'll be amazing. I mean, it's psychologically not easy. It's very psychological because you're basically coming to terms with the fact that you were ignorant about something.
Right.
And people do not want to admit that they have been ignorant, you know?
Yeah.
Especially older people. Older people do not want to be told that, you know, they don't want to come to terms with the fact that for the majority of their life, perhaps they weren't that aware of something as they thought that they were.
Yeah.
But it's okay to say, you know what, I didn't know back then, but I know now, and I'm willing to take the steps to rectify that and to keep going with that.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, decolonizing, in my words, I like to say decolonizing the colonizer is hugely important. And I feel like it's a bit of it's not really discussed as much as it should be. There's obviously been a lot of decolonization movements for colonized people, so which absolutely is super important. But we've also got to decolonize the colonizer because they're the ones with the power.
Right.
They're the ones with the influence.
Right.
And if we want the colonizer to see things from the perspective of the colonizer, the colonized, and to come to a more egalitarian and equal understanding of the world, the colonizer has got to reflect and reimagine how they see the world. They've got to, you know, really peel back those layers.
Yeah. And I want to know where you stand, because I just love the fact that you're very, you know, outspoken and involved when it comes to a lot of issues. There are people who say, as long as it doesn't happen to someone I know or I love, it shouldn't matter to me. I don't care.
Absolutely.
When it comes to anything, like whether it's injustice towards women, towards children, towards, you know, different races, whatever it is, I think there are a lot of people who turn a blind eye to things.
For sure.
For as long as it doesn't affect anyone that they know, that they love. of which you explain that when it comes to like feminism, that there's no like deep story behind it, but you just know that you are outspoken about these things because you have that empathy of like, when I see injustice happening to someone, it doesn't sit well with you, you know what I mean?
No, it definitely doesn't.
Yeah, so what advice would you have for people who tend to turn a blind eye to situations just because they don't affect them or the people that they love or care about?
Good question. Again, I mean, these questions have been very amazing. They've been very reflective as well. Right. It was really cool to, go back and reflect on how I view things.
Yeah.
So there's a quote by Desmond Tutu that's probably one of my favorite quotes. And the quote is, "If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor." If an elephant has its foot on the tail of a mouse, and you say that you are neutral, the mouse will not appreciate your neutrality. And I think that it basically just sums up the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
I think being a bystander is one of the worst things that you can be.
Absolutely.
Arguably worse than the person committing, the act of prejudice or violence. If you have the power to make a difference and to protect someone else and to see someone who's clearly, being oppressed or disadvantaged in some way, wouldn't you want to protect them and, be there for them? Wouldn't you want to stand up for them? I don't really understand how you couldn't. I think people perhaps really struggle with recognizing humanity in each other, and they only see the differences, but there's actually a lot more in common.
Yeah.
With us, with each other than we really think. We've got a lot more similarities than differences, and if we tune into each other's humanity and really think about being, practicing empathy, we perhaps might feel a bit more confident in approaching those situations. Because I do understand some people are very shy, some people aren't. They don't like conflict.
Oh yeah, some people don't like confrontation. They're like,
yeah,
exactly.
Probably not. Yeah, but it's like, is it? The conflict is worth, facing up to the conflict is worth the end result.
Right.
I think it's, I mean, like...
And it feels good, too, to a person, just know you did something. You know what I mean? Even if it was scary or it didn't end up the way you wanted it to, but just knowing that you pushed yourself to say, you know what, I could have let fear get to me, but I did something. It's a good feeling, I think.
Yeah, I think as well, like... you've only got one life. I wouldn't want to be lying on my deathbed ruminating over all the times that I didn't stand up for what I believed in and that I didn't stand up for other people as well.
Right.
Because, you will ruminate about it. You do feel guilty, and guilt really festers. Yes.
Guilt kills, yeah.
You've got to, I don't want to live life with any regrets, and I think other people, if something doesn't sit well with you, say something.
Right.
Think about the situation, confront it, and then you'll go to bed feeling okay.
Right.
So, you can't live your life in fear. I think fear is a huge part of it. There's definitely a big pack mentality. Or if I do this, I'm going to be excluded, or I'm going to, be... it's embarrassing to stand up for the underdog.
Yeah.
Who cares? You know? Other people actually look at you as a role model.
Right.
They're not going to, think about it for the rest of their life. Like, oh my God, can you believe so-and-so really stood up for blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
They'll think about it and go, wow, that was really cool. That was really brave.
Yeah.
I want to do that as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because someone out there is looking and saying, I want to be just like them. I want to be as outspoken.
For sure.
I want to be as resilient. I want to be as fearless and just, be able to make that difference. Now, I don't know about you, but if this young woman does not inspire you or encourage you, I don't even know. Because honestly, I do keep up with your profile and I see you're very out there when it comes to so many different issues. And I think that it would be very good and inspiring as well for people to just follow up with you as well. And I know that for now you're active on Facebook mainly.
Yes.
But, where can people follow you? Like, you can shout out your Facebook profile, everything.
Sure
where can
thing.
people find you?
So my Facebook profile is Eliza Grace. You're more than welcome to add me as a friend. I love making friends with people, especially...
She does. She does.
Especially.
No, very friendly too, though. So you won't regret it. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
Especially if they're into, you know, making the world a better place as well. That sounds really cheesy, but at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do.
Right.
More than happy to have a discussion or, you know, just a conversation with someone about social issues. So yeah, I'm only on Facebook at the moment, but I am in the process of making a Twitter account because sometimes on Facebook I feel like I'm talking to an empty room. So, I mean, not that it will be any different on Twitter, but I think also, you know, in terms of being involved with Proud Roots now and, you know, furthering my career in academia, I think I've got to build a platform for myself. So I'm definitely working on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a long time coming, and I've been very lazy about it.
I feel, because I think, especially with the project of the Proud Roots project, I think a lot of people may be interested in just understanding it and learning a bit more. So make sure you do, you know, keep in contact with her, add her as a friend on Facebook, and ask her as many questions as you want. She'll be there to answer them. And, you know, like if you have questions or if you just want her to elaborate on something she might have said, you know, if you want to understand more about like decolonization or whatever, you know, just hit her up and she'll be happy to chat it up with you and everything. Thank you so much for coming.
No worries, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. Until next time, guys. Bye.